it's really curious, the balance between like the stuff that we're dealing with in our personal lives and then going right up to like thinking about what's happening around in the planet. And it can often just create these huge waves of like, I've got this, I really haven't got this, I've got this, I really, really haven't got this, you know, and it's like super intense. It's almost the closer that you get to it, the more difficult it becomes. So it's really hard to maintain perspective. And I feel like a lot of the time, people choose to tune out because it becomes difficult to tune in. You know, it's quite challenging to tune in. I think it's also good to sit with that and for us to be present for a moment with that. And it's totally okay to bring whatever you want to bring to that sitting. So in my world, like today, I have my daughter here. She's wonderful, but she now has to be quiet. You know, through this week, I've had a range of different challenges to deal with, as I'm sure that you have. Probably some of you will have noticed at the beginning of the call that we were talking about the changes that Jade's had at Spotify. And so just being present with those feelings, I always find quite powerful. But then if we were to tune in and to accept those feelings as being okay, like whatever our current experience is completely okay. But there really is this greater, larger challenge. And the reason that we're all at home right now is because of COVID, or many of us are at home. And COVID's not the only challenge. As we know, there's climate change, there's Black Lives Matter. We are in a world where we're ever greater divided, ever greater challenged, and ever greater aware and hyper-connected in that world as well. And so that becomes completely overwhelming if you choose to tune into it and let it pull you. You know, so if you're waking up in the morning and you're on Facebook and you're like death scrolling through Facebook, you know, like just going through content that other people are choosing to put into the world that you haven't chosen to consume, but it's there so you consume it. You know, whatever ways that you're coming into contact with, you know, whether it's plastic waste in your own streets, whether it's, you know, those horrible pictures we saw of beaches in the UK recently, whether it's climate migration. We had refugees, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, literally dying on our shores. Like this is intense sets of feelings if we choose to feel them. And yet there is also this other space, because with great intensity becomes this movement towards action. And it's when, as Steph neatly pointed out, like we in Future Planet, we live in zone 6 almost always. It's like when we come together as a community, when we join together in a purposeful way, when we support each other, create safe spaces for each other and move forward, that's when we both feel good, but also when change happens. And it will take all of us in all of our different ways to create that space. So we were asked a question in the chat before, like, maybe we could get this to happen, or maybe we could get that to happen. That's exactly the answer. Like many of us could get many different things to happen. And it's about supporting each other in that way that we make things to happen. So at Future Planet, we're just that. So we really are only community. Like my belief is that through community, everything happens, you know. Whatever project you want to run, whatever thing you want to do, whether you need support, whatever you need is found through community, because community is each of us. It's every person in this call, it's our families, it's our friends, it's everyone that surrounds and is around us. And it's when we come together with those people, when we support people wherever they are at, when we help them to make that change, that's when change truly happens. The critical thing for me is that we make the right changes and the right choices. And that's fundamental. You know, like we could spend 5 years of our lives like doing stuff that was sort of okay, but really it would be akin to like brushing the floor in a house that was yet made. You know, like there are a set of very critical actions that we need to make, and a set of very clear and defined things that we can do, both personally and professionally. You know, so if I can share a list at the end of this on personal actions, because I think it definitely starts from there. But if I'm just going to talk for a bit. You know, and we know what these are. Like in the world now, we have all the knowledge, we have all the solutions, we have all the answers that we need. The thing for us to do is to transcend cultural divides, political divides, religious divides, all these different divisions that are being created through this world of social media that's sort of become bent out of shape, you know. But actually we can remake that world. Like every part of that world is created from our own manifestation. Like, we choose what we post on social media, we choose what we act, we choose what we consume. It's always our choice. And it's also always our choice to support each other in what we want to do and what we can do. And fundamentally, that's how, what I believe holds us together as a community. So at Future Planet, our values are united by love, kindness, empathy, and this common belief around that if we come together and we act, that we can make the world a better place. Our mission is to accelerate our transition to an inclusive, sustainable future. And we have a very clear theory of change about how we can act on that. Our vision is to create a community of change makers and a community of citizens, and it's the collaboration between the two that will create real change. So change makers work inside organizations or are working to transform systems. So they're people that are in a sustainability role or in a brand role or in a business role. Hello, everyone that's joining. Nice to see you. This is exciting. Hi. And they're people that are making change happen. And we support them through an intentionally curated community. So we go and find people that they want to connect with. We speed up the pace of change that they can get it to happen by removing the friction of having to find the right people to make change with. We curate events, we have an online platform. We really are just looking at providing a community, a joined up community. And that's often the most powerful thing that people can receive. Because if you imagine you have an idea or you have a project or something, the best thing that can help that idea grow is by finding new people that want to support that idea or that solution. And that's what Steph does, is fantastic. And many other organizations like hers, they're all doing that. What's happened is they're all in silos, which is also great. But there's this thing about how could we join together? Like, what would happen if we all decided to join together? And then once we all join together, we have to decide on what actions to focus on, what things to support and scale up. So clean energy is a clear winner. And like, one of the biggest ways that companies can transform is through clean energy. And one of the ways that we can transform in our worlds is through changing to clean energy as well. And there are like 10 or 11, and I'm going to run through them. And if we're building brands, or if we're acting personally, those are the 10 or 11 things that we could do. Just to finish, so we also empower citizens to join together and support those change makers. It's the collaboration between the both, the authentic connection. So when we're creating campaigns, we're not just brands that are creating campaigns for consumers to consume. We're authentically creating a connection between those people and their consciousness and building the right solutions and the right communities around those brands that can thrive. That's why you're seeing brands like Oatly, all these great brands coming through. They're building community. Oddbox, all these brands that are solving problems. You know, Oddbox are a great solution. They take food waste and that's, you know, fruit and veg that's wonky, that doesn't fit in a supermarket or doesn't go in the traditional channels, and they sell it to you in a box at a cheaper rate than you would buy fruit and veg elsewhere, not in packaging, right? Now they have a deeply connected relationship with their community of consumers, because those consumers care and they're tangibly solving a problem. And it's around how we create more of that. That's where the answer lies. And then once we see something like that working, it's how we support that and how we grow that as well. And the top 10 actions for me, like what's important to hold in your heart when you receive these, is that it's actually by being proactive and working on these that we create a good feeling. It's by creating a connection around doing these things with other people that we create community and we create good feelings. It's those bonds that are created around those spaces that I believe hold us up when things are difficult. It's about creating that future together that makes it feel better. My words are going beyond me right now. Right, so top 10 actions that we can be present with and make, and will have a significant impact. As Steph says, small changes when we all do them together make a massive difference. This is a big one. This is fairly reasonably contentious, but having one less child, if we can change a society in that way, not that all of us need to do that or that we should feel guilt if we already have lots of children. It's just that the notion of having lots of children doesn't necessarily need to be the right way to think about things. So how can we live within planetary boundaries, having one less child and one less person, one less human, and every chain of humans from then on, therefore, having an impact on the world is massive. So that conscious decision around having one less child. Mindfully traveling. This is the biggest step change I think we will face, and we will have as a benefit of COVID, is this potential for much more mindful travel. A significant number of my friends and people that I know are now choosing to take experiences and holidays in beautiful England, or wherever they might be, where they're not flying to go to those places. We've already seen 747 start to be taken out of commission. And so mindfully traveling, and traveling for the experience, traveling for the feeling, not for the need to go and get somewhere or have something. It's a mental shift, a mind shift, but it's the same thing around, and it's the same thing around business travel as well. Like, do we need to travel? Do we need to do these things? I think we've opened these things up, and it's about embedding those good habits and redefining what it means to feel good, redefining how it feels to be much more mindful around how we travel. Switch to clean energy. If you haven't done this already, this is the one thing that you could leave today and do, and I would celebrate you, and then you should celebrate each other for doing it. It's the biggest win that you can make personally, is switching to clean energy in your home. And then if you've done it, work out how to help other people in your family do it, work out how to do work out how to connect with other people in your networks and do it as well. And it's that connection, again, that connection through community, through doing something good together. If you can get it right, it's really rewarding and feels really good. Plant-based diet, again, this is huge. This is really big. Not only is it a huge impact, but my sense is that when we eat meat, if we truly tune into where that meat comes from, and we sit and are really present with that it feels slightly less good, if not extremely less good, to consume meat when you know the journey of how it's got to you. On the flip side, it's very easy to have a conscious free eating of fruit and vegetables, minus perhaps the air miles, but broadly, like, they have come from a space which feels good. So I actually bought a Beyond Meat burger, which is similar to Impossible, the other day. It's made from pea protein, and it tastes like a burger. And I was eating that thinking, I should really be eating meat and gristle right now. This feels like, but it's not. It's completely plant-based. And so there's this feeling that one gets inside oneself, which is it's a complete shift. Suddenly you don't have to feel that guilt that's been buried down, because whether you think about it or not, you're consciously knowing that you've created pain in an animal to eat it, for example. And I'm not always vegan or vegetarian, but I've shifted. I probably have meat like once a month now. And when I do have meat, I eat meat mindfully. So I would buy from a company like Farm Drop or something like that, where the farmers have an integral connection to the land, where they're cultivating the soil in a good way, where they are where they're farming in a way that is in balance and harmony with nature as much as can be as well. And so I would also say how we travel. I think there's been another step change in how we're traveling, both from home to work and all the areas in between. But mental health, physical health, this is deeply connected for me. I decided to invest in a personal trainer recently. It's the first time I've invested in someone else to help me and support me. And I've had a step change in terms of my mental health as a result of having that consistent heartbeat of physical support. And it's the same as when we travel. We could change those journeys to being bike or something different, but something where we're using exercise as well. Well, exercise brings me neatly onto this. But actually, and this is the team from Wonderman who are doing plogging. Again, like a really fun exercise for them to do with work. Plogging basically is going for a jog and picking up litter. Like, it's super tiny, it's super small in terms of what it is, but actually it's really important. And it makes a massive difference, not only to the people that are doing it, but also to the environments that they are in as well. And it creates that connection of support, community, of doing something good. This is where good feelings come from. Fresh air, sun, picking up rubbish, doing it with friends, smiling. Suddenly you're in a totally different space to one that perhaps you were in if you're sitting at home wondering, like me, whether, I don't know, it's sometimes I'm an introvert and it becomes a bit challenging. This is slightly further out, but just as important. Steph mentioned 100 companies, I think it was, that have 71% of impact. Probably if you have investments, if you have a pension, some of them will be in those companies, and you can choose where your money goes. You can choose where your money is. And again, that feeling of choice, that feeling of a positive action, that feeling of a positive choice is really powerful. And I believe if we start ticking off all these boxes of things that we're acting on and things that we're doing, we will sleep much more easily and with a rested conscience when we do it. And if we've done it ourselves, the journey is then, how do we help other people make that shift as well? And recycling, we have seen recycling rates jump a huge amount in the UK since COVID. People have more time to focus and be present with what's happening around them. But the raw materials that are taken to create the things that we use are massive. You know, if you look at those things there, so plastic, paper, mixed recycle, they'll also include metal and tin. Like those items come from around the world. They are mined out of the ground, they are built, they have a carbon cost. And if you just throw them away without recycling it, you are then constraining ourselves to keep on extracting from the world, to keep on taking from the world, rather than creating a regenerative environment. We're extracting and we're taking. And then, but if, as soon as we start recycling consistently and supporting other people to do the same, we're saving energy, we're saving raw materials as well. And the flip side of that is zero waste. So this is not the flip side, but the extension of that, to go beyond that into a zero waste world. So maybe you're shopping in Kath's Unpackaged store, or maybe you're using the new Loop system that's been developed by TerraCycle. This is a small one, but it's important. If you're recycling, wash up the plastic before it goes in the bin. Otherwise, it doesn't get recycling. So you've done something that you felt was good, but wasn't quite good enough. Grow your own. I think I've seen so many people growing and being closer to nature. This is, again, something that we can do that really can enhance and like create a lot of good feeling. Not only are we caring for a plant and we're learning and supporting something else, which is actually a really great way for us to feel purposeful and somewhat have some purpose, which can be really helpful to drive out of those times of depth. You know, consistently looking after a plant or nurturing or looking after an animal, those are great ways to feel better. But also we're saving on the resources it takes to create a packaged herb which comes in packaging that can't be recycled. So we're actually getting a much directer connection to the things that we consume and the things that we have, and we're not also then consuming things that are perhaps more wasteful to the environment. I think this says preserve nature. I can't see my screen, but we will see and we will experience a lot more of this in the coming months and years. Tree planting and people getting out into nature to make it better. And that could be brands supporting mixed agricultural methods in their farming, or that could be individuals taking part in tree planting, or that could be brands supporting individuals to take part in tree planting, or regenerating local habitats as well. So there, like, as a whistle-stop tour through like 10 or 12 actions that you could make